It's a different world and a different existence for Tua Tagovailoa and the Miami Dolphins. The future is uncertain. The present is unsettled. But having said all that, life goes on, and the Dolphins with Skylar Thompson at quarterback travel to Seattle this weekend for their first road game of the season. A victory would go a long way towards settling everything down. Welcome, everyone, to this week's edition of Dolphins Deep Dive with Perk. I am your host, Chris Perkins, your Miami Dolphins columnist for the South Florida Sun-Sentinel. That is my man, David Furones, your Miami Dolphins writer for the Sun-Sentinel. Furones, say hello to everybody. I'm not going to say what's up because that's crazy, right? Everything is up with the Dolphins. Say hello to everybody, Furones.
That's right, Perk. Never a dull moment. Boy, just that past week, with week one, Tyreek Hill, the detainment and handcuffing before the opener, and that just feels like such a distant memory now. When you consider just 5 days later, Thursday night game, then the Dolphins, one get stomped by the Bills, but then also just all the saga with Tua Tagovailoa, another concussion that we're covering. Always something going on with the Dolphins. Unfortunate circumstances here, but we always got it covered, the good and the bad.
That's right. And look, we are sending good vibes out to Tua and his family. And look, on the other side, Furones, Skylar Thompson, you know how it goes nowadays. You have a good 3 or 4 game stretch, cha-ching, right, as a quarterback. So there is a big opportunity here for Skylar Thompson sometime in the future if he can put together a nice stretch here and keep the Dolphins afloat. As always, we invite all of our viewers to add their comments, thoughts, and questions to our live chat, a great venue for intelligent Dolphins conversation. And we welcome all of our viewers. When you leave the questions, some of them, of course, we will answer today on the show. Others I will address later on today in a Q&A that goes online, a question and answer article. For our viewers, we invite you to subscribe to our Dolphins newsletter, which you can access with the QR code that's on the screen. Or you can also access it by going to sunsentinel.com. In the upper left-hand corner, there's a tab that says All Sections. You can click on that, and you can access the newsletter by that. And finally, we'd like you to vote in our weekly Dolphins poll. This week's question: should Tua retire from the NFL after his latest concussion? We will tell you how some of the votes have gone there. But in the meantime, today we're going to talk about whether Tua should continue to play, whether you trust the Dolphins' backup quarterback situation, and whether the Dolphins can win this weekend in Seattle. As we always say, there's an ocean of possibilities. Let's dive in. So, Furones, whether Tua should continue to play, this is a decision that, should belong mostly to Tua, and then to Tua and his family, and then to the medical experts, right? Well, I guess I don't know if that's the correct order, maybe to the medical experts first. But having said all of that, where do you lean in whether Tua should continue to play football, Furones?
Sure. First of all, it's really unfortunate that we're having these discussions again due to the seriousness of the subject. First, want to say thoughts with Tua and his family as they listen to doctors and possibly revisit some discussions we know they had after the 2 or more concussions suffered back in 2022. I think Hyde's column was great. If readers haven't seen or viewers haven't seen that at sunsentinel.com, I think what worries people more with this case than maybe some others are the shocking images that we have seen in his cases of concussions and head trauma. The curling of the fingers in the fencing response we've now seen twice. It's a scary sight when you see it. So I understand why it elicits a greater response than when maybe other guys simply get their head rung and look fine on the outside. So the main thing I want to know is he suffering a more severe or higher grade concussion than others who don't react that way? Does that magnitude have graver effects later on? So I will say this decision is his and his solely, along with his family and the doctors, as you've mentioned. If and when he is cleared, however long that may take, assuming he wants to play and doctors okay it, I'm all for it. I'd like to take McDaniel's advice and steer clear of opining and joining the conversation. But if I had to make the same decision, being as passionate about the sport as he is, I'd do the same. I know not all concussions are the same, and repeated head trauma makes for longer recovery and maybe more severe effects. So I would say another instance of two in the same season, like we saw in 2022, that really, I believe, starts the conversation due to the proximity of the concussions. But what really concerns me is how easily Tua, honestly, slips into concussion protocol. Aside from the one in Cincinnati where he was slammed down, they seem like rather routine plays. He has taken measures with the jiu-jitsu to learn how to fall in better positions. Against DeMar Hamlin, in this case, it's a different case entirely, where he just shouldn't have led with his head. But it's not like Hamlin came in to deliver a big blow. Tua's head was jarred by going into Hamlin's shoulder, even biceps area. So it's concerning that he has to change how he plays so much in order to keep himself safe. But decision is entirely his, and I support the reported decision that he doesn't plan to retire.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Furones. And really with me, there's so much unknown because just speaking for myself, I would want to know if I'm Tua and his family, do the repeated concussions lead to CTE? Do they lead to long-term brain damage? Do they significantly raise the chance for some kind of cognitive disability when you're in your 40s or 50s? As far as I know, the research is very inconclusive on all of that, and that's what clouds this issue. That's what makes it so uncertain whether it's safe for Tua to come back. I would like to see him come back. If I was Tua, I would definitely lean toward coming back. This is a lot of your identity. This is a lot of your life. Yes, you do have a family to consider, and that's going to be your number one consideration. But as long as things are uncertain, in my mind, if I was Tua, I would lean toward returning. If there was more certainty, if you could draw a line and say, yes, the more concussions raise the chance of CTE significantly, or raise the chance of cognitive disability significantly, then the decision is easier. But the research, as far as I know, is kind of undecided. It's kind of murky. Clearly, repeated concussions are not good for you, but we don't know what the long-term circumstance or the long-term issue would be. We know what they could be, some of the circumstances could be, but as far as I know, there are no direct lines that A leads to B. So, if I'm Tua, I'm gonna continue to try to play, and I'm gonna continue to push it as long as I can, and I'm not gonna condemn him for that decision. Look, welcome to Pretty Boy. Welcome to Peter McDowell. Troy from Louisville, baby. Gotten some Storm Duck action here early. Ocean Breeze Detail, Ender Fireplace, YT, AV, Mike, Lofi Enemy, NFT, Cap for Life, of course, Grandizer 12. Welcome to everybody. Bob Brinson is in here. Let's read a couple of these here, Furones. Pretty Boy says, I think we're going to be okay, Dolph fans. It's time for McDrip to prove to us that he's this run game guru. Heavy dose of running and play action will get us through these games until Tua comes back. What do you think of taking the pressure off of Skyler by doing something that's a little uncharacteristic? This is not a run game team, Furones. They thrive on, to me, Skyler's big deal, get the ball to Tyreek, get the ball to Jalen Waddle. Buffalo didn't make that possible, so you had to give it to Achane, right? You had to improvise. Is a run game the thing to lean on here, or do you kind of lean more on Jonnu Smith? Do you kind of lean more on Achane? Does it go game to game? What do you think, Furones?
Well, Perk, I got to disagree with the statement you made there that this is not a run game team. I think the Dolphins certainly are. And they were number 6 in rushing last year. I think at the heart of this Mike McDaniel offense is the outside zone run blocking scheme where they have the tailbacks to get it done and the athletic blockers on the offensive line. We know they didn't do so much in terms of improving the interior of the offensive line, but got a fit in Aaron Brewer, and obviously are strong at the tackle positions. But I know Raheem Mostert's status is a little bit in doubt going into this week. He already missed this past Thursday night game with the chest injury that he's dealing with, and he got hurt early in that opener against the Jaguars. But Devon Achane is carrying a huge workload for a running back of his stature, and also one who was dealing with an ankle injury and was a game-time decision to get 29 touches against Buffalo was a big number. He's getting involved in the pass game a lot, but I think still he had the 22 carries and was heavily involved as well in the opener. So, I would say, this is definitely a team that can lean on the run. And it's just, they were the number one passing offense last year, but also being number 6 in run, it opened up a lot of big plays in the passing game, and that's why they were able to get it with Tua leading the league like he did 2 years ago in yards per attempt, leading in total yards passing last year. So sure, some of the numbers may indicate, but I feel confident in this run game.
Yeah, they have gone to the run game more. 2 years ago, they were 31st in rushing attempts. Last year, 15th or 16th? And as you say, they were 6th in the league. I think 135.8 yards per game or whatever it was. Here, going back to our poll.
You had it to the decimal. Don't act like you don't know the number. You said 135.8. And then pretending like, or whatever it was, like you didn't know that was a very precise number that you just stated to the public.
You know
did
what?
Homework. Yeah, just it's okay to admit it.
That's a good call, Furones. But I think it's 135.8. I had to say
being humble about it.
I like it. Furones calling me out on my BS, baby. I like it. All right, so let's go back to this poll. Here's your options for and again, the question is, should Tua retire after this last concussion? Your options are yes, immediately. Why risk brain damage? No, return as soon as cleared. Players have been getting injured for years. He just needs to slide. No, he shouldn't retire, not now at least. Follow doctor's orders. Be careful and try to come back next season. Or maybe the only opinions that matter are family and doctors. And so we've gotten a lot of each. We've gotten Jeff E. from Hallandale Beach, who says maybe he should retire. The only opinions that matter are family and doctors. To that, he said he should retire, but it's his choice. We had Andrew S. from Kendall with the maybe vote, saying the Dolphins knew the risk when they signed him. Did they think somehow he would stay healthy? We've gotten a few votes though for no. And one from Carlos Vasquez from Apopka saying this is a personal decision he has to make. We also have a no from Cape Coral. Football is a dangerous game. If they live with it, no one. If they live with what ifs, no one should play. And we also have a couple of yeses that he should retire. One from Barbara Klein from Oakland Park. He has small children. He should think of them and his wife. Somebody else, Daniel Corson from Coral Springs, says, yes, he should retire immediately. It says, if you want to live past 40 to 45 years old. Furones, let me ask you one thing about this. Let me ask you two things. Do you think, they haven't announced yet that they're going to put Tua on IR, but you got to think, given Mike McDaniel's recent injury history, the way he treats them, right? Whether it's Jalen Ramsey during training camp, Tyreek Hill during training camp, Jalen Waddle during training camp, he gave them extended time period to recover. Don't you think he will do that with Tua also? Even though it's the regular season, don't you think that whether Tua goes on IR or not, he will get an extended time period off to recover, wouldn't you think?
Sure, and wasn't that the case after the one in Cincinnati where he was cleared right before the one game, and then the Dolphins held him out another week, so then he came back so that would be the Minnesota game, the Minnesota loss, right? I think he was technically cleared maybe that weekend, and then Dolphins rolled with Skylar Thompson like they were planning to with Teddy Bridgewater available then as the backup because he got hurt a previous week. Maybe I'm misaligning games, but anyway, then they brought Tua back for the Sunday night at home against Pittsburgh the following week. So gave him some extra time so he doesn't have to rush in preparation once he is fully cleared. So I can see a case like that happening. The Dolphins' bye week also comes into play here, where it is week 6. So we are currently entering week 3. If the Dolphins were to put Tua on IR right now, then he would have to miss 4 games. It's not 4 weeks. So the bye doesn't factor into it. So he would actually have to miss the first game after the bye. So meaning you have 3 games going into the Week 6 bye, which is at Seattle this Sunday, a matchup that we'll discuss later on in this show, and then home against the Titans on Monday night for Week 4, and then the Week 5 game at the New England Patriots. So then that takes you into the bye week at 3. If you were to put him on IR, he would then have to sit out the bye week as well as at Indianapolis, which is the first game after the bye, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't looked that far ahead, but I believe that to be the case. So if you put him on IR, then you got him out for now 5 weeks already. It's so difficult with concussions because you just don't know how a player is going to progress through protocol. If it's going to be a speedy process where the 5-step process, with steps 2, 3, he moves right along and is able to get back into things, and then you put him on IR, you have to make the decision early in the process. Then that doesn't bode well because then you miss a lot of weeks where you could have brought him back. But obviously, there's also a level of sensitivity to this matter specifically, being that it's concussion and it is Tua who has had a history with them, and you want to make sure he has ample time. So I'm leaning toward you don't need to right now unless you see that the early process is really taking a while leading up to this weekend, and then you say, all right, this will be the first one, and then we already know he's out through that first one after the bye. But especially having the bye after these 3 weeks, I feel like Skylar Thompson could maybe get you 2 wins, at least 1 out of these next 3, take you into the bye, and then you have extra time for Tua, assuming hopefully, best case scenario, he is cleared by then, and then Tua has that extra time to get reacclimated.
Yeah, I think, I do think that Skylar can keep you at 500 through a 4-game stretch. After that, I'm not sure. But, as I've written and as I've said, here's what I think. If you think that Skylar Thompson is going to win the same way Tua won, you're crazy. You've got to modify the offense and accentuate what Skylar does best and hide what he doesn't do so well. So, On that note, we've got a couple of questions here and comments. Questions, really. Well, question and comment. Furones from Lofi Anime NFT. Time to see what McDaniels can do with different skill sets and lesser quarterbacks. And then from AV, when are Malik and Craycraft back? Malik Washington and River Craycraft. So when we talk about different skill sets, with Skylar said that during training camp and offseason, 2 things he wanted to do were get the ball out of his hands more quickly and make quicker reads. That's 2 ways that Tua thrives in this offense. I don't know where Skylar is in that process, Furones, but what do you think we're going to see different with Skylar in there and with different personnel with like getting Malik and River Craycraft back? Would that help? Because if you're another team, don't you think, well, if we really focus on taking away Tyreek and Jalen Waddle, this guy is going to panic and he's not going to know what to do. I mean, would different personnel help? Can you chip away that way? What do you think strategically, and what will this show about McDaniel and his ability to work with different quarterbacks and different players?
Sure. Okay. I'll answer one of those 8 questions.
It's a deep dive, baby.
I'll go with the personnel part of it. I think if Malik Washington can come back, that can help Skylar. Obviously, he's a different quarterback than Tua, but he knows the system, has been in the offense almost as long. You consider when Mike McDaniel came in and brought in offensive coordinator Frank Smith, quarterbacks coach Darrell Bevel. So that would be February of 2022, and then Skylar Thompson was drafted at the end of April. Not too much more time that Tua has had in this same offense. So, Skylar has grown within the offense since he first came in as a backup a couple of times in 2022, and then even getting big game experience, having to clinch a playoff berth Week 18, playing in a playoff game in a raucous environment in Buffalo. We know Seattle will be as well. But he has two of the best receivers in the NFL too. So any NFL quarterback should be able to get the ball to guys like Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. So it would be a huge indictment on Skylar Thompson if he cannot, and it's such a drop-off in the offense because you have the tools in front of you, and you have Devon Achane in the backfield, and you added a tight end, Jonnu Smith. Now, how many more weapons do you need? Yes, we understand they don't have Malik Washington right now, and Odell Beckham is on PUP, and River Craycraft is on IR, but Malik Washington would be the one that I look at maybe one of these upcoming weeks because he wasn't placed on IR with his quadriceps injury. That would add a great dynamic with a slot receiver who can help be a third option in the receiving core with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. We've heard so much how teams do like to try to double both of them in key situations on third down. And then, even less when neither one is on the field on a 3rd and 13, like last week against Buffalo. That's a subject for another day. You had Grant Dubose, Robbie Chosen, and Braxton Berrios as your 3 receivers when you're trying to convert. I thought that when I saw that lineup, I thought they would just run the football and they were going to concede the 3rd down. But sure enough, Grant Dubose was targeted for the first time in an NFL regular season game, wasn't looking for the ball. Pass goes off his shoulder pad and is an interception. That got things rolling the wrong way. So, yes, I would like to see the personnel all utilized as well. But starting with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, that's a pretty good start for any quarterback, any backup quarterback.
Yeah, that is a good start. And look, also, this is not totally up to Skylar, right? Like, Mike McDaniel has to help him out and do more. Anthony Weaver has to do more. Jalen Ramsey, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, like Teron Armstead, if he's out there, which he should be, according to Mike McDaniel with that right shoulder injury. But, you go down the payroll and you go down the list of responsibilities. These guys have to do more. Danny Crossman, Jason Sanders, like Skylar is a backup for a reason because he's not as good as the starters. I'm not running Skylar into the ground at all. I'm just giving the reality of the situation, and that's that he's not going to do the job or be as effective as Tua, but that doesn't mean you can't still win. That doesn't mean you can't still compete. You just have to find a different way to do it. So maybe the edge rushers have to put more pressure on the quarterback and do more than their fair share. Maybe Jalen Ramsey has to get more interceptions. Maybe he has to gamble a little bit more, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But somebody's got to pick up the slack, and it's not going to be Skylar Thompson. I think it's unrealistic to ask Skylar Thompson to do more than we think he's capable of as a backup quarterback. Everybody else has to do more. Mark Heavy, you're forgiven for being late. Yeah, it's all good, baby. It's all good. Let's see who else is in here. Bob Brinson, welcome to the show. Be Stuck the Poet says, I don't think he should retire. I also think the team could have been constructed better to prevent this. Furones, when you look at the structure of this team, and we've talked about Chris Greer before on other shows, Dave Hyde has pounded him recently a few times. The construction of this team, should you have had a better backup quarterback here? Should you have had a better situation at number 3 receiver when Chris Greer says we knew OBJ was hurt, but we signed him anyway? Is Be Stuck the Poet right? Could there have been things that you could have constructed this team differently, and this might have prevented this, or I don't know if it would have prevented it, but maybe you wouldn't be relying on the same things. This team could do things differently.
Sure. The Dolphins tried to get off cheap on the backup quarterback position. Yeah. We know they paid a premium the year that Teddy Bridgewater was the backup, and then maybe weren't too thrilled with the results when he did have to come in, and then he would also just go right back out, and Skylar Thompson ended up playing so much that year. So, yeah, they tried to get off cheap bringing in Mike White. You didn't need him the whole first year. So then I can see why now you're more inclined, okay, well, if Skylar Thompson was inactive every game as the 3rd quarterback and Mike White never had to go into a situation because of Tua injury in 2023, only at the end of let's say, like the 70-20 win against the Broncos where he throws a touchdown to Robbie Chosen in garbage time there as the Dolphins are setting all kinds of records, then, I can understand why they went into this season like that. But, yeah, if you saw the writing on the wall with Mike White earlier, if you had maybe the foresight that you were going to end up cutting him to save those. I already forget the number. If it was like $3-ish million.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So
Yep.
I remember it was a conversation, right? It was a conversation back around the time of the combine when you're getting ready for free agency. It was a conversation if they were going to cut him then. They stuck with Mike White, kept him and Skyler in this competition, and now second go around after Skyler lost the competition the first time, Skyler ends up getting it over Mike White, and now Mike White becomes expendable, and you save yourself those $3 million. So if they could have had the foresight and paid a little bit more of a premium to find a backup quarterback, maybe go for a Jimmy Garoppolo this offseason or any one of a number of quarterbacks who backup caliber quarterbacks who could have fit, then you'd be in a better position right now. But they opted to go this route, and then now QB3 Skylar Thompson beats out QB2 Mike White, and then that's who you have now as your backup when needed 2 weeks into the 2024 regular season.
Yep, you're right. And look, Furones, that leads us perfectly into segment number 2. Is the backup quarterback situation reliable? Here's what I'm going to say, Furones. As I wrote on sunsentinel.com, I'm going to trust Skylar Thompson, Mike McDaniel, and the Dolphins organization on this one. Here's why. With Skylar, I'm going to trust my eyes that he is better than he was in 2022, the last time we saw him play a meaningful game, aside from Thursday. And I did think that he beat out Mike White. I thought they should have kept Mike White, and he should be QB number 3, but that's beside the point. That's not going to happen now. So Skylar is your number 2. I trust Skylar. Here's why I trust McDaniel and the organization, Furones. It would be an absolute dereliction of duty, just ineptitude, the height of ineptitude to think that they have all offseason and they have this big quarterback competition and Skylar wins, and then 2 weeks later you think he's inadequate. Like, I just can't believe that the Dolphins are that stupid. I'll just say it, right? Like, they're not that stupid. Mike McDaniel is a smart guy, and so I've got complaints about his offense not coming through against playoff teams, but he's a smart guy. He's not going to leave his offense exposed like that. So I do think that Skylar can get the job done. Again, what I think for a backup quarterback in the NFL, a 4-game stretch, you should be able to go 2-2. Keep your team at 500. Beyond that, you're probably going to get exposed. Hopefully the team has figured out something or you figured out something. But I think that Skylar can do that. And so I do feel fairly comfortable and fairly confident with this backup quarterback situation. I don't know who the best backup in the league is. Maybe it's Tyrod Taylor. I have no idea. Maybe it's Andy Dalton. I like veterans, who have started. But let's give Skylar a chance. And again, I think if the defense does more, special teams, Mike McDaniel, Anthony Weaver, I think he can keep them at 500 for a stretch. What are your thoughts on this whole situation, Furones?
Sure, and I just look at it as 3 games leading into the bye, and I think Skylar, like I said earlier, could get you 2 wins in the stretch. I mean, if you're chalking up losses to the Titans at home on Monday night and at New England, I know they've shown some fight in some games, and they were just in overtime against Seattle. Then with the talent on this roster, yes, with a backup quarterback, you should still be able to win these games. So, I would put it as I guess it's kind of spoiling where our prediction is going this week. I don't think the Dolphins will win in Seattle. The first week, the Skylar Thompson is immersed into this starting quarterback role now as the backup going in. But I think back home on a Monday night against the Titans, he should get that win. And then at the New England Patriots, Skylar Thompson with this roster should be able to win that game. So if I'm looking at as those 3 that Thompson, and we don't know how long it'll take with Tua Tagovailoa, no one knows what the future holds there. But if Thompson is just counted on to bridge you into the bye, then I am expecting 2-1 out of those 3 games.
Here's some interesting stuff going on here in the chat, as always. Mark Heavy says, never say never. It's not over till it's over. And then we got Billy Batson saying, I don't hear no fat lady. And Jorge Gross saying, let's go Skylar, win for the Fins. So, and when people are asking, Mark Heavy does ask, why does everyone think it's over? Grandizer 12 says, probably because of the O-line. They need that O-line to play way better. Robert Jones and Armstead being injured. Furones, when we talk about making life better for Skyler, the offensive line, we know it's not an offensive line that's built to maintain blocks for 3 seconds, 4 seconds, right? Tua gets it out in 2.5. If Skyler cannot make those quick passes to Tyreek and Jalen Waddle effectively that Tua thrives on, if he has to take some 5-step drops and sit, does the construction of the offensive line work against him? Does the Dolphins game plan that we can get the quick interior offensive lineman right, does that now work? Is it possible that works against them?
Sure, it would be to the detriment of the Dolphins. Now, one thing that we did see in the preseason is sometimes Skylar Thompson can move out of the pocket and make some throws on the run. He can extend the play. So he has shown some flashes of athleticism. I'm not calling him a dual threat quarterback by any means. He's no Lamar Jackson out there, but he can make some things happen with his legs, extend some plays. So sometimes we might need to see Skylar pull those examples off in this regular season setting. But, it will work to his detriment if he's not making the quick decisions that we know Tua to thrive on, like Darrell Bevell has alluded to, his anticipation and as one of his 4 superpowers that Darrell Bevell is.
Right. I like those superpowers. I know. Peter McDowell says no backup quarterback is one of the weakest. No backup QB is one of the weakest in the league. Some teams have 3 QBs. I really like Milton from Tennessee, who New England drafted. We should have taken him. Always played it safe for Tua. No real competition. I will say this, Furones, you weren't bringing in anybody to compete with Tua. You were bringing people in to compete for the number 2 job, to compete with either Skyler or compete with Mike White, right?
Oh, yeah. You're saying right now with Tyler Huntley or earlier?
No, ever. When people say you never brought in competition for Tua, and it's not like it's not like they were going to bring in a starting caliber, a Deshaun Watson, Tom Brady, just to bring up 2 names from the past. They were going to, I think, all the competition, anybody you would have drafted was going to be with the idea that they're a backup, not a competitor to Tua. Tua was Mike McDaniel's handpicked guy.
Yes, right. Yeah. Well, he inherited Tua, but McDaniel, right, for all intents and purposes, has taken him in as his own from day one. And I think that was a prerequisite when Mike McDaniel was even hired, for sure. In that whole hiring process is who can really turn Tua around after his 2 years that he had under Brian Flores and the rotation of offensive coordinators and play callers that Tua had. Those 2 seasons. So, yes, so the competition was settled when Tua won out the jobs those years and then made a year 3 leap and, of course, then also stayed healthy in year 4 and earned himself the contract that he did in the offseasons when he signed. You don't sign a quarterback to that caliber of a contract to then bring in competition for the starter. That's just not a realistic thing in the NFL.
Yep. Let me ask you this, Furones, because when we look at this team and we talk about are they going to be ready, I will compliment the Dolphins on this. And I haven't been high on their chances of winning a playoff game or anything. Their mental attitude is outstanding, and it has been since the time since McDaniel got here. Even through that 5-game losing streak in 2022, which could have destroyed a lot of teams, even through last year, the December and January stuff that they go through all the time. 2 years ago with Tua, last year you had a bunch of injuries to the defense. Jalen Ramsey injured second day of training camp. Them not getting along with Vic Fangio. They've kept a good attitude, and I expect that they'll keep a good attitude through this. I've covered a lot of teams from way back, Texas Rangers back in the Pudge Rodriguez days, all the way up through the UM teams of 97 to 99, the early Dolphins, the Miami Heat. this team's attitude has been up there, and they've got reasons to turn on each other and be disappointed and be angry. I think they're going to keep a good attitude through this, Furones. If they don't do well, I don't think it'll be because they quit or they got down or they thought they couldn't do it. I'll give McDaniel and the players credit. They keep their mental on point.
It's a strong locker room, and has even made strong additions where you think Calais Campbell is going to let this locker room get destroyed over one bit of adversity, or even someone we just talked to yesterday, Jordan Brooks. I see him the same way as very stable with his mindset and thick and thin, ups and downs. Guy like Zach Sealer, who we also spoke to yesterday in this locker room, I don't see the mental aspect of it falling apart for this team.
Yeah. A couple of things here. Lofi Anime NFT says that's why we can't grab a Mac Jones or a Justin Fields, because those guys would be competition, not for a guy like Mahomes or Allen. But I just don't think that the Dolphins. Yeah, I don't think that they're. Mac Jones. You could have brought Mac Jones in. After he lost his starting position.
Right.
Justin Fields. I think that anybody that you bring in, you could bring those guys in. I think, but they would know I'm not competing with Tua for the starting job. That would be made very clear to them. Now, media and fans, that would be different, because maybe if Tua has a bad game, maybe one of us jackass media people, maybe even me, would go up to Justin Fields and say, what do you think? Should you be starting? But I think Mike McDaniel...
Admit that you're a jackass.
I think it's obvious by now.
We were all waiting for it. We all knew it. We all discussed amongst each other, but it's not straight from the source.
Exactly. I thought I would just put it out there. But I think it would be obvious to Mac Jones or Justin Fields that you are here as a backup, right? So I don't see a problem. I know that idea is out there, but if they were brought in, right, it would be crystal clear. Tua is the man. Like Mike McDaniel, you would be an idiot if you're Justin Fields or Mac Jones to think you're competing with Tua, right?
Yeah, if you're Mac Jones or Justin Fields, then if you were able to compete with Tua going in, you would have been kept by your first team. So the situation would never even arise. Maybe it would only occur if he came in as a backup, and then years down the road, Tua's performance suffers, and then these guys under different coaching were to have some they became revelations and suddenly improved their games. But it wouldn't just occur that way, where they were immediately coming over from their first team where the situation failed. They wouldn't be immediate competition. No.
Yeah, and in that situation, you could or would have a problem like Justin Fields went 4-0 during this stretch while Tua was out, and the team showed a different dimension, right? With Justin Fields' ability to run, then you would probably have a big decision. But until then, I think it would be a very clear line there. There was another one here that I wanted to from Mike. He says all Tua needed to do was slide, and we're not talking about this. You're right, Mike. Here's my thing. Tua is a competitive person, just like every quarterback in the league. You're down. I don't even know what the score was at that time. I don't know if it was 31-10. I don't think it was anyway. But you were down. You're trying to make something happen, and it was 4th and 4, as I recall. I think he slid into Hamlin at like a 6-yard gain. So if you go down, you might start your slide behind the line to gain. So I don't really fault Tua for that, for either of, sliding, and you're in a competitive situation and you need to make sure you get the yard to gain, right? I mean, that's how I'd look at it.
Yeah, because I think watching it again, if Tua starts his slide and before any contact would even occur, I think he might end up stuck, because they would mark it back down where the slide begins, and there's a possibility that he ends up just short. It's not as just simple as saying he got 6. So he needed 4 yards. He should have slid once he got 4. Well, it's not. I mean, he also got 6 because he was going forward with the football. So maybe if he would have just dove to the yard line that he needed, or like just beyond and to the feet of Hamlin, instead of deciding, okay, I need to dip my head into Hamlin, then maybe we see a different outcome. All these what ifs, it's a little unhealthy to even discuss it. And it's something that should be a conversation between the Dolphins coaches and Tua. Once he is in the right frame of mind to just return, gets through concussion protocol, and starts to get reacclimated into playing, then yeah, these are all things that probably need to be said, and probably were said to him several times, like, don't go putting your head in a compromised position by dipping into a defender. But Hamlin was not trying to really deliver a big blow, which is what's really concerning. Or I mean, really, if Tua also just stays upright too, and maybe takes a hit, to the body instead of really putting his head into harm's way, then we could see a lot of different outcomes. So. But yeah, I mean, he's really trying to get that first down, 4th and 4, kind of like right. The game's over at that point. I mean, if you don't get it, maybe you can keep yourself alive with how much time is left and mount a late comeback if you do score. So I understand him going for it, but then, and maybe a slide doesn't get you the necessary yardage, but it was just a matter that he used his head to go into Hamlin specifically. That was just sort of the one thing that I believe he would wish he could have back and avoid all of this.
Last one for this segment. Raphael Courtwright chimes in with, we have the Tuck rule. Will there be a Tua rule? And let me ask it from this standpoint. If and when Tua comes back, can he carry the ball scrambling at, like, if there's a defender in front of him, what happens? That's my basic question. We see the agile, nimble Tua. We saw him scramble out of bounds for an 11-yard gain earlier in the game, was it, or something like that? By the way, I think that's the play where Teron Armstead got hurt when I'm watching the All-22. Anyway, can you defend him without fear that he's going to run? If you're a defense, like the quarterback sneak was already off the table, but yeah, if he's scrambling and you're a defender and you're 2 yards in front of the first down marker, the yard to gain, Tua's not going to run you over, right? He's not going to put his head down. Like, does this become a strategic impediment for the Dolphins if Tua returns because of the limitation or the apparent limitation now?
Sure, yeah. I mean, anytime he scrambles, and you're going to be thinking of it. And I know we hear so much about the offensive line, and this wasn't even a case where it was a sack where it occurred, where Tua got hurt, or play in the backfield like we've seen the time he was pushed down against Buffalo, and then head snaps back from the whiplash. The sack in Cincinnati, which he was just thrown down, and the play against the Packers, he was throwing on the run and kind of really just tripped up, and then because of the way he was falling, head hits the ground. So this was really, it was his scramble, him fighting for yardage. And I know I heard Rich Eisen bring it up, is just that is sort of the big sticking point with anyone who is saying, maybe he really should consider retirement, is that you have to change the way you play so much. But also, we haven't discussed this in this program, and the Guardian caps that are now allowed to be worn in games. I think that it should be now mandatory for Tua to play wearing one. I don't care how it looks, and if you don't want to, a lot of players aren't doing it because of the aesthetics, but we've just seen too many cases now with Tua where, hey, if he's going to come back, put that on. Maybe it doesn't prevent every case of head trauma, but if it can improve by 10, 15%, which are some of the numbers I've seen reported, then any little bit helps. Along with your jiu-jitsu training that has helped you fall in better positions, this case is not related to that. It's him putting his head into a defender, trying to fight for yardage on the run. That any little bit helps. So I would say definitely come back wearing one of those.
Let me ask you this before we get to the Furones bonus. The NFL is obviously trying to expand. I know, don't jump the gun. The NFL is trying to expand globally, right? Does the Tua decision, does this impact that? Does it, if you ban Tua from playing, is that a negative that this is a dangerous game? Is that confirmation this is a dangerous game? Or is this the NFL being proactive? Would Brazilians think, hey, that's a great sport, I want to play it? Would Brits think that? Would Germans think that? Does the Tua situation impact, mothers in Germany saying, I want my 15-year-old to play? Do you think this has global implications in the NFL's desire to spread the game?
That's interesting. In spreading the game globally, I think whether in America or internationally, it wouldn't behoove the NFL to ban Tua if he's cleared medically. I just don't see that computing. I think if he just isn't cleared medically, then that would simplify everything. If doctors highly recommend that, he calls it a career because. Whatever the case may be, if another concussion could have such dire effects, then sure. But I would say if doctors clear him and say, no, he is healthy enough to go and proceed, then I wouldn't see the NFL making the decision as a league to go ahead and ban him. Whether the perception for America or globally, I don't think, either way, I'd view it the same.
Yeah. I do want to see if the NFL is sensitive to its global expansion of the game through this decision, or if it influences it in any way, because it doesn't look good. But I guess in every sport, maybe in rugby or in soccer, you probably have head injuries. Just the video of Tua and the frequency could be bad, but we'll see. We'll let that unfold. All right. It is now time for one of our top 4 segments of this 4-segment show, the Furones Bonus.
Oh, the Furones Bonus.
I love it, baby. I love it. All right. So here we go. In honor of our man, Skylar Thompson, we are asking for 3 memorable backup jobs in pro sports history. We have a lot of possibilities here. Look, we could even go recent with Nick Foles for Carson Wentz, right? 2017, leading Philly to the Super Bowl. We could go way back in Super Bowl history, right? Max McGee for Green Bay Packers in Super Bowl I, hungover. Told that Boyd Dowler is injured, 7 receptions, 138 yards, 2 touchdowns.
I didn't know all that. Okay, wait, he was hungover. Hold on, I might have to change my.
He was hanging out with Paul Hornick the night before, okay. And he got up through the game. And he was like, he told Boyd Dowler, I hope you don't get injured today because I don't think I could do it. And sure enough, Boyd Dowler got injured. And here comes Max McGee, baby. One of the all-time great substitutions. I do like the Steve Fisher for Bill Frieder. That was the Glenn Rice Michigan team in 1989 when Bill Frieder was the Michigan coach. He accepted the Arizona State job before the NCAA tournament, after the season and before the tournament. Bo Schembechler, who is the Michigan AD, said, I don't want an Arizona State man coaching Michigan. So they told Bill Frieder to hit the bricks. Steve Fisher takes over before the tournament. Glenn Rice, he leads them to the 1989 title. So there's another great substitution in sports history. We're hoping Skylar can do something like that, right? We know Earl Morrall for Bob Greasy in the perfect season. Who do you like for your 3? Who do you like for the memorable ones, Furones?
Yeah, boy. I mean, if you think that story is great from Super Bowl I, just wait till the day that you are doing a Dolphins deep dive with Dave Hyde and are out of commission, and then I fill in hungover and so lead the show to victory. It's just great. Well, so the conversation has to start with Tom Brady coming in for Drew Bledsoe in 2001. That GOAT was created in the moment. Yes. Mo Lewis put the hit on Bledsoe. So greatest NFL career coming as the byproduct of getting thrown in as the backup. And then it's the GOAT example of a substitution in sports leading to greatness. So the conversation starts with that one for sure. That's number 1. or the Dolphins ties. And in fact, you could even argue that there's Dolphins ties with Tom Brady. But
Yes.
I digress. You can go with Tua. Tua as a freshman in the college football national championship game against Georgia, winning it as a halftime replacement of Jalen Hurts, throwing the game-winning touchdown pass. That was epic. So definitely go there. And of course, more Dolphins ties. Earl Morrall maintaining the perfect season for the Dolphins.
Yes.
Although, hot take on that, maybe. You go back and look at the stats, and I wasn't alive for it, but I know about the team and have seen some footage of it. The quarterbacks, whether Greasy or Morrall, they didn't really have to do too much. Aside from handoff pitches, when you have Larry Zonka and Mercury Morris, plus Jim Kick leading that it was a top-ranked rushing attack in the 1972 season. So, but for the sake of a Dolphins program, you can't undermine the accomplishment. Someone still had to be at the helm calling the shots for the offense. So, yeah, I will give the credit where it's due there. So a couple Dolphins ties there. And so those are all football examples, though. So you did say in all of sports. So I'll give you two wild cards in other sports. Both managerial decisions, whether coaching or managerial decisions. First, how about Steve Kerr inserting Andre Iguodala into the start of the 2015 NBA Finals Game 4.
Nice.
And Warriors changed that series entirely. Iguodala actually wins Finals MVP.
Yes.
And LeBron, although he put up so many numbers, and he didn't really shoot a high percentage. He shot under 40%, even though everyone says he should have won the MVP for all the counting stats that he put up. But Iguodala being inserted, he held him down. He held LeBron down in that game in Cleveland. So the Warriors went into Cleveland, won a game when they were down 2-1, and got back on track and won that series. And how about this one? Terry Francona pinch running Dave Roberts.
Yes.
Kevin Millar led off the ninth inning of Game 4 of the 04 ALCS with a walk against Mariano Rivera. Of course, Dave Roberts steals second, and the next batter, Bill Miller, ties the game with a single and then leads to the greatest comeback in a series of down 3-0 and the Red Sox beating the Yankees. And I like the Yankees, so that one hurts me to say back in 04. So,
very nice.
Pinch runner that saved the season, and then it led to the Red Sox ending their curse going back to 1918.
Yep, very nice. Hey, as a Yankees fan, how do you forget Lou Gehrig for Wally Pipp? I mean, that's like one of the best ever.
I didn't forget. I wasn't alive for it. I actually don't know the story of how Lou Gehrig went in. I mean, I know his 493 career home runs, and his stats that he put up, Murderer's Row with Babe Ruth and those Yankees, and obviously ALS and his retirement. But yeah, I mean, that was new to me. So what was the story there?
He had the consecutive games record that Cal Ripken broke. So Wally Pipp had a headache, and he asked out of the lineup. And was it Casey Stengel who was the manager? He said, "Okay, Gehrig, you get in there." And Lou didn't come out for like 2,000 games, and he Hall of Fame career. So that's what people say. Don't get Wally Pipp. Don't ask for the day off at work because Lou Gehrig might be behind you. You'll never get your job back. Yeah.
I don't think I've heard the Wally Pipp name like that. So
yeah,
I mean that's a reference that was over my head, but certainly, I mean, tremendous career for Lou Gehrig since that moment. So I guess similar to the Brady dynamic.
It is. One of the GOATs there. One of the GOATs. All right, Furones, let us wrap this up with prediction time, baby. It is prediction time.
Oh!
Who you got?
That's not.
That's what we do. We do need some kind of emphasis for that, don't we? We got to come up with something for that. Yeah, that's a good idea. All right, so Furones, we know the situation out here. Dolphins going to Seattle. We know that Mike McDonald, the Seattle coach, was with Anthony Weaver in Baltimore. And so those two happen to know each other very well. We know that these two teams exchanged inside linebackers, right? Jordan Brooks and Jerome Baker. Jerome Baker, I think, went out of the last game with a hamstring injury. He had some injury. He's questionable this week. We know we're going to see our old friend Connor Williams at center. So we're going to see some familiar faces there in Seattle. obviously, the big thing is going to be Skylar Thompson and how he's able to get this thing going. Geno Smith, our old friend from Miramar High School. By the way, two Broward quarterbacks, right, with Tyler Huntley and Geno Smith. Although we don't think Tyler is going to see the field, we will have two Broward. Huntley went to Hallandale, and Geno Smith went to Miramar. So we do have two Broward quarterbacks in this game. Furones, boy, we also don't think that the Seattle running back Kenneth Walker. He missed last week with an oblique injury. He's probably going to be out this week also. Still, I'm going Seattle 24-20. I could see the Dolphins winning this game. I'm not that impressed by Seattle. They were overtime to beat New England. They beat Denver in the opener. They were on the road last week, so you give anybody credit for a road victory in the NFL. But I do think Skyler's going to keep them close. I'm going to take Seattle because they're at home. But I think the Dolphins are going to give a credible effort, and they're going to look as though they're a cohesive unit.
Sure. Yeah, I can see some of those things. I still just find it difficult to imagine going all the way over there, the longest travel in the NFL, going Miami to Seattle. Maybe you would call the reverse the most difficult one because going west to east, you lose time. But still, the longest in terms of distance, same way, in the same manner for the Dolphins. And that 12th man in Seattle at Lumen Field over there, it's tough for Skylar Thompson. Now, he does have experience. He has big game experience. He's gone into Buffalo. And, although he was only completing 40% of passes in that playoff game, the Dolphins were tight in that game. It was a tight game, contested one. Dolphins forced some turnovers on Josh Allen that kept it close. So I just see it too tough overall. I see the Dolphins showing some signs that Skylar Thompson can lead the offense a little bit, and they have so much talent on this roster. But ultimately, I'll go with something like, Seattle 24, Dolphins 19.
That works. Judy Williams says this season is already on the precipice. We will see. Very, very nice word there, Judy, and welcome to the show. P Double. Nope, that was welcome to the show. Black Sheep, welcome to the show. I think Black Sheep had something. I'll take Geno over Tua. Yeah, I think that's part of a conversation there. I'm trying to read a couple of other of these emails. I think they're all part of conversations that.
Great Geno Smith story, by the way. From when I covered high schools down here. I didn't cover Geno Smith specifically. He was already out of high school and at West Virginia once I was covering, even as a freelancer before being hired by the Sun Sentinel. But just being on the Miramar sideline one time, I was hearing a story, this later on, about the legend that Geno Smith was at Miramar High. He was suspended for the first half of a game, and the offense struggled entirely, but they always had a good defense, the dark side defense, they call it over there. Miramar, still tight game with whoever their opponent was for this game. Geno was suspended for the first half or something that happened, and then comes in second half, first play, he just throws a go route to someone, touchdown. While the ball is in midair, he's looking over to his sideline. I believe the coach would be Damon Cogdell still back then. And he said, "We good now, coach? We good now, coach?" The ball in midair before touchdown for the first play of the second half. I don't know if some parts of that story are inaccurate. It's kind of like hearsay, game of telephone that gets passed over the years. Yeah, I told it incorrectly from what I even heard several years ago, but still pretty for the legend that Geno Smith was locally at Miramar High.
That is great. We do have a couple of predictions here. Raphael Courtwright, 18-15 Dolphins, all field goals game, Dolphins for the win. Baseball with Jutt, Dolphins 23, Seattle 17. Defensive TD, pick 6. This is a defense that had 3 consecutive games last year of scoring a touchdown. Mike says the defense has 2 turnover receptions. Let me ask you this, Furones, and there was one comment that Mike McDaniel made yesterday that got my attention regarding Tyler Huntley. He said he's clearly being brought in here as a backup. Then he said, and then we'll let the competition take over. We'll see from there. Kind of like saying that this job is not gifted to Skylar, that he's got to continue to earn it. What do you think about that? And then just having Tyler Huntley here, a guy who runs and does it differently, is that some desire by Mike McDaniel to open up the playbook? Is that some contrition by Mike McDaniel saying, okay, Tua was kind of solitary and so is Skylar. We need to I understand we need to kind of open it up. He did say that this Shanahan offense did not start with me here at the Dolphins when he was talking about an agile quarterback. There are different aspects, right? There's a Christian McCaffrey aspect. There's a George Kittle aspect. So what do you think that Tyler Huntley could eventually challenge Skylar? And do you think Huntley being here is some kind of admission by McDaniel there's other things he can do or should be doing with the offense?
I wouldn't put it as any kind of admission of anything done or previously done incorrectly in this offense. I think just maybe it could let McDaniel's offensive inspiration, creativity flourish if the situation ever arises where Huntley can be thrown in and use that athleticism that he has. So maybe. I mean, it's also what sort of urged the 49ers to go for a Trey Lance in the draft and try so much to the Dolphins. Now, that did not go very well for them. And Brock Purdy then ends up who was Mr. Irrelevant for that offense. But maybe there's other dynamics that Mike McDaniel can get incorporated into this offense. I would like to see his imagination run wild if that situation were to arise. But first and foremost, the priority would be to get Skylar Thompson prepared and have him ready to play this upcoming slate of games, and then you only cross that bridge if you get there. But I'm sure Mike McDaniel allots some fraction of time out of his day to thinking what he could do with a mobile quarterback like Tyler Huntley.
Yep. Last thing we'll tell you all from the injury standpoint, as far as we know, injury report comes out tomorrow. Looks like there's a possibility that Teron Armstead, Rob Jones, and Raheem Mostert are on the field for this game. Possibility, no promises. Would you agree with that, Furones, from what we've heard from the Drew Rosenhaus report on Channel 7 and from what Mike McDaniel said?
Okay, yeah, sure. So I actually missed because we haven't had any official word on Robert Jones, but yeah, Drew on Channel 7 said Rob Jones was looking all right.
Yes, that is yes. So we'll see.
So you could have the left side of your offensive line. I know Jones has struggled a little bit. I do have faith in him just to get it right because he's been reliable the times that he's been thrust into starting positions. Maybe now a different mindset, being tabbed the starter from the beginning. But yeah, I mean, you would want the guys who won those competitions to be able to play, like a Robert Jones, and then also Jeff Wilson. If Raheem Mostert has to sit another week, then Jeff Wilson's another guy that you look at, so that he could take off some of that workload from Devon Achane.
Yep. And I always do this. One more, Raphael Courtwright. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Furones. Raphael says, Chris, is it true that when signing a player from another team's practice squad, the player has to be on the 53-man roster for 3 weeks before cutting? Is that a Tua timetable to return? I think he has to be on your active roster, and then he's going to be paid for 3 weeks. I'm not sure that you have to keep him for 3 weeks. Is that your understanding? I think he gets paid regular season salary as opposed to practice squad salary for 3 weeks.
Right. I believe that is the distinction there. We discussed this in the media room just yesterday.
Yeah.
I believe that's to be true. I may have to verify, in the rule book and whatnot, but I believe that's the case there too. In the scenario, then you could still just revert back if Tua were to come back and you wanted to start him before 3 weeks are up, you could just revert back to like you did all last year. Is the third quarterback is the healthy inactive,
Right.
or emergency third quarterback. So like Skylar Thompson was every week of last season. So you could just go back to that because you have to have your number of inactives anyway.
Yeah. I got game New Jersey. I see you. P-Double has H-N earned the number 1 running back spot. Why don't we hurry up? H-N, he's not built to withstand 29 touches in a game. So we'll see how that goes. Remember, Jeff Wilson got injured last week, and Raheem Mostert was also out. I do like the way that the offense is trying to get the ball to Jonnu Smith in creative ways. They've tried to go to Braxton Berrios. Durham Smythe had a couple of drops. They're spreading the ball out. I think they're still trying to figure out what they've got, but HN getting that big a workload on the regular, I'm not sure that he is physically built for that. All right, I'm going to try to get out of here. Miami Kid Jay, I see you. Sabrina Collier, I see you. Yeah, we're Miami Kid Jay. My mom was calling out formations last week and knew exactly where the ball was going. I'm never going to get out of here if I keep reading these. We appreciate the comments. Much love to y'all. That's David Furones. I'm Chris Perkins. We will see you next Tuesday at noon, sunsentinel.com.